Welcome back to Tabletop Titans and another Titan Tactics. The Dark Angels have been absolutely dominating the competitive scene as of late, and we're here to talk about why. We're going to dive into the 3 things that make Dark Angels such a powerful army in the current meta. Of course, if you do find this video to be useful, do hit that like and subscribe button down below. It really does help us grow the channel, and we greatly appreciate it. Let's dive on in. So ultimately, Dark Angels have a number of things going for them, and this comes together in a number of GT winning and GT placing wins. Of course, this is in light of the recent changes in Arcs of Omen. We saw points reductions, we saw secondary changes, and ultimately we saw the game change around them. This style of list that we're going to be looking at today has seen success in the past in various forms of the game, and it is back again with an absolute vengeance. So really, we're talking about 3 key elements today. We're talking about these cheap, cost-effective units that they have. We're talking about the durability that the army has access to, and we're talking about their ability to have high scoring and consistent secondaries. Let's dive on in. First of all, taking a look at a GT winning list. This is the list that won the recent Cherokee Open. This is a list by Stephen Crowley. Well played, Stephen. And let's take a look at it. So normally we take a look at the list at the end of the video, but I think let's take a look at really what comprises these tournament winning lists, because there are a few core elements that we see throughout, and Stephen's list helps really exemplify it. This list, as you'll notice, has lots and lots of Deathwing Terminators. It has actually the maximum amount. It's 3 blocks of 10 with all the fixins. We've got the Cyclone Launchers, we've got Storm Shields and Thunderhammers on all of them. What is interesting is, of course, this is not a Deathwing only detachment. Stephen is leaning into things like the Ravenwing Talonmaster and the Apothecary. And so, as you can see here, it is foregoing the ability to have objective secured on everything in exchange for the utility that these units provide. Very powerful, very strong. As you can see, it's got 1 speed, it goes all out, it holds the board, it hits quite hard in melee. So this gives a sense for what we're talking about when we talk about Dark Angel tournament winning lists. The first element that makes Dark Angels such a powerful army right now is the fact that they have really points effective units. In particular, we're talking here, of course, about the Terminators. Terminators, as of Arcs of Omen, have basically all of their upgrades free. This is a huge reduction on things like Thunderhammers and Storm Shields. Clocking in at a measly 33 points, you get a Terminator with a Thunderhammer and a Storm Shield. Don't forget, you're also going to have Transhuman for being Deathwing, and Dark Angel's army, very, very durable, very, very cheap. Before, you would still use these, but you kind of had to balance them out with things like Double Lightning Claws and other kind of units, because it would become too expensive. But this has been a massive reduction in points. I think we're looking at about 300 points reduction total if you're running 3 squads of 10. So you're getting a lot more bang for your buck. And of course, now all 3 of these squads are rocking the missile launchers, which are going to help kind of balance out your list, give you access to some shooting on top of these already incredible durability and melee punch. So, you know, Deathwing Terminator is definitely a big winner here, and a big reason that we're seeing Dark Angels succeed so much. Next up, we have the Ravenwing units. I kind of have this as a catch-all because it varies from list to list, but they have certain elements that are common to all of them. These also saw some huge upgrades. We have the attack bikes that have free multi-meltas now. We saw the Black Knights that are actually quite affordable. A number of the different speeders, such as the Tornado, and these are all just very effective for a number of reasons. You're going to get those upgrades. They're fast, they're flexible, and they have core, which is important. Several of these lists, including Stevens, is running things like Azrael for Chapter Master, so being able to give that to a unit of bikes is very powerful. Of course, we also have seen the rise of Samael, who hasn't really been on competitive boards for a long time. And of course, this also brings an element of shooting, particularly with heavy weapons, so you get extra access to Codex Warfare for secondaries. We'll talk more about that soon. So the Deathwing and the Ravenwing provide the very points-effective units, just doing a ton of work for what you pay for them. Now let's talk about the durability of the army, which is absolutely amazing. And of course, we're still going to kind of break this down between Deathwing and Ravenwing. They offer different benefits. Largely, we are seeing these wins come from Deathwing, so let's talk about them first. Of course, you have permanent Transhuman, so you cannot win these Terminators on better than a 4+. A huge deal, lots of bonuses to a wound right now. We have access to a ton of high-strength weapons and things like that. So toughness 4, good enough when you have Transhuman. We of course have amazing saves. These are Terminators with Storm Shields, so So that is going to be a 2-up going down to a 1-up, even lower if you're going to be in cover, which you can of course use to your advantage if you're playing in player placed terrain such as Cherokee Open. And of course we have the Pennant, which is going to give them access to -1 damage. You basically hop this from one unit to another depending on when you're going to need it most, but this also is going to play into the way that you're going to select your secondaries and play each mission, kind of focusing on one Terminator squad at a time, being extra durable on top of all that. Of course, we also have access to the best apothecary in the game, which is the Ravenwing apothecary. Very, very fast, make them selfless healer so that they can not only give these Terminators a 6-up family pain, but you can also resurrect one for free each and every turn. This is of course going to get you models back, but it's also going to give you extra movement, which you can use to get closer into combat. So quite spicy there. Let's talk about the Ravenwing units. Now, there's a few bonuses that you're only going to get if you're playing a pure Ravenwing detachment. I think they're worth mentioning. Most of the lists are just adding these on to an existing Dark Angel detachment, so you're not getting them, but it is worth talking about. That you can get a 5+ invulnerable save against shooting, goes to a 4+ if you have moved. So that is going to be Ravenwing detachment only, but still interesting to think about. However, you're always going to get these other things. They're always going to have high toughness. Again, these are still points effective units, so they are durable, unreliable to kill. They are largely going to be core units like the attack bike, so you can also resurrect them with the apothecary, and they're very, very fast. So whereas the rest of the army, the Deathwing Terminators, is quite slow, your Ravenwing units are able to zip around, go for key targets, and stay safe all the while because you have those amazing bricks of Terminators to support them. So lots of durability coming out of the Dark Angels right now. So we have points effective units, we have durability, but really at the end of the day, this doesn't matter unless you can score well. I've said this before, I'll say it again, an army wins or loses based off its access to secondaries, and this build in particular has access to a number of amazing and consistent secondaries. So let's start off talking about these Space Marine specific ones. Oaths of Omen saw a bit of a rework in the Arcs of Omen, where we basically were re-granted the bonus point for surviving wholly within 6 of the center. This is fantastic for Dark Angels, particularly Deathwing, because you can be moving up your unkillable Death Star, Death Blob into the middle, and you don't have to have the whole blob wholly within 6 of the center. You just need to have one of your support characters inside of there, and just tell your opponent good luck, try to kill them. It's a pretty reliable way of scoring a secondary that for most armies is a little bit scary unless you're going second, because if you're going first, your opponent can always have a chance to respond, kill you off the board. I have said in the past that it is nigh impossible to play an army that is able to just sit in the middle of the board and be durable right now. Well, Dark Angels are here to prove me wrong. They are durable enough that they can actually do that and lean into this amazing secondary due to their durability. Codex Warfare, I'd say it's a lesser choice, but still an available one here. Of course, Codex Warfare is really leaning towards Devastator Doctrine because you're going to get 2 points for every kill, whereas you're going to get 1 point with every kill in the other doctrines. But as we mentioned, with Ravenwing support and with the fact that these Terminator blocks do have a couple missile launchers in them, if you're in a bind, it honestly isn't a bad choice. So I think that's an interesting thing to keep in mind when you're building your Dark Angels list and also when someone's playing against it. This next secondary, Stubborn Defiance, actually has seen some recent nerfs, but is still a very strong secondary. Really, you're not able to score maximum points unless you score it with a unit of infiltrators, because you have to start on the objective during the command phase. So usually you're going to forgo this and just say, I'm going to lose out on that first turn of scoring, and we're going to lean in, getting my Terminator block onto that as soon as possible and start scoring it. As we mentioned, they're that durable. They can move up there, they can score it. It's great for Oaths of Moment. It is great for Stubborn Defiance. Still a very solid secondary, and honestly, it's kind of cool and kind of wild that this army is still able to score a stand-in-the-middle secondary. Next up, let's talk about some of the generic scoring that Dark Angels have access to. First of all, Raise the Banners. This is a secondary that is very risky because, of course, your opponent can manipulate it. They can pop in some OBSEC, take you off the objective, but this army is, once again, so durable, so entrenched in its side of the board, or even the mid-board, that it actually can score Raise the Banners pretty reliably. We're looking at a solid 10. Honestly, if you can get up sooner on some maps, this is going to be more like a 12 to 15 range. So once again, very consistent. You have access to lots of objectives secured. If you're leaning into the Ancient, you can of course get double objective secured in some builds. So pretty reliable secondary for an army that wants to stand there and not get killed. And last but not least, Warp Ritual. This one's interesting because I'd say pretty much none of these successful Dark Angels lists are building in more than one Psyker, but many of them do have Ezekiel. For 105 points, he's an amazing caster with access to amazing other powers, and if you're in a bind, look, it's another secondary that rewards you for being durable, being up in the middle of the board. So it is pretty fantastic. You only have one caster, so it can be a bit risky. You're not really going to take this if you feel like your opponent has the ability to snipe out your single psyker. But look, you're gonna have multiple chances to score this Warp Ritual, which you need to perform 3 times. So between these 5 secondaries that we just looked at, Dark Angels have very reliable, very consistent secondaries that they can adjust from game to game. So just bringing it all together, what really makes Dark Angels so strong? Well, they have very points-effective units that are extremely durable and access to durability at the right moments in the right ways. And last of all, of course, they have strong secondaries that are supporting them, allowing them to be just flexible enough in this wild shooting meta and do what you need to do. So really, these are the reasons that Dark Angels are so powerful right now. Let us know in the comments below, of course, if I missed anything or what you think of them. Are Dark Angels too strong right now? Are you looking at playing them? And do you have any tech against them? That's gonna do it for me. Thanks so much for hanging out. I'll catch y'all next time on the tabletop. Bye.